Welcome to the We're Good podcast, where we are celebrating the everyday brilliance of people working toward a more positive world. If you're looking for the good that's taking place around you, you've come to the right place. Today on the We're Good podcast, we're taking on a topic that affects so many people on so many levels: Alzheimer's and dementia. In May of 2025, the Alzheimer's Association reported that 7.2 million Americans have the disease. While Alzheimer's makes up the largest percentage of people with dementia, there are more than 100 forms of dementia. So chances are, if you're listening, you know someone who either has the disease or is taking care of someone who does. Today, we'll highlight an organization providing respite care for those who need it most. Join us today on the We're Good podcast. Welcome back to the We're Good podcast. I'm Leanne Necessary Brownlee, your host, and today I'm so happy to be joined by my fellow co-founder of the We're Good podcast, Tanya LaForce, who I just am so glad you're here with me today. When we were looking at doing this early on with our other co-founder, Mary Ellen Chandler, we said that we wanted to focus on Alzheimer's dementia from the perspective of the patients, the diagnosis, care, prevention. And so this is the month. November is the Alzheimer's Awareness Month. So we just wanted to really focus in on this, which we think really impacts so many people because it impacted us.
It did. We had talked about that we have all, we, our co-founders, experienced it in our families. And we know so much more about it now. The idea of dementia versus Alzheimer's, how sad it was, I think we've talked about for each one of our experiences. And now as we age, we know that we're in the sandwich generation, right? We're taking care of children, but we're also taking care of aging parents. And so the more awareness we can, and resources that we can talk about, the better for us to know.
Yeah, and that's where Insight Memory Care Center came in. It's a nonprofit that's a respite care center for people who are experiencing Alzheimer's, dementia, and it is also it's respite care, which is kind of a running theme in our first season because we had Jill's house on earlier, and they were respite care. They are a respite care center for children with intellectual disabilities, and we heard how that respite care really helps not only the patients, the people that are being treated, are experiencing the issues, but also the caregivers.
The caregivers. And we got a chance to talk about, and we're going to, hear from Mary Jo later. And her story is so powerful that I'm really glad that she shared it with us. So you have said this before, so privileged that people share their stories with us. And today I thought we'd get a little bit behind our own curtains, right? And share a little bit about us. I mean, I just feel like I wish we had something, my family, I wish we had something like a Insight Memory Care. When my grandmother had, I guess it was dementia, form of, she was like the abuela Pilar, was like the typical grandmother. She was a great cook. She dropped everything for us and she sewed. She was just wonderful. And she was a very sweet woman. And then we started noticing changes in her. I mean, then she started to get loud and curse. I mean, these things that were so unlike her.
So not her.
So not her. And we weren't sure what was happening, right? So again, this idea of like her personality changed. Was that just old age and saying, you know what, I've gotten to this stage in life and I can say what I want to say? Or was it something more? And it turned out it was something more. And we didn't know any of that. So.
And you said that you were telling me earlier that changed also because she had to move to be closer to family, right?
And so once we realized that it was in fact something like dementia or Alzheimer's, her sons lived not close to her. And so they had to move her closer so that they could keep an eye on her and they moved her to a home. And her decline was so fast. I mean, I remember we got married in October. She was at my wedding and she was vibrant and wonderful. And I went to go visit her. They moved her and I went to go visit her and it was like January. And Leanne, I mean, honestly, we made eye contact and I saw the recognition and then immediately it was gone.
Oh, yeah.
And she stopped speaking.
Oh.
It was in months. It happened so fast. And to this day, I so blame it on the move. We took her out of her environment, out of her community. And so fast forward to knowing more about Insight Memory Care and what a wonderful resource it is to be able to have your loved ones that are still in their community
Mhm.
and have a place to go.
Right. My situation was, and I've known several people in my life have been affected by Alzheimer's, dementia. My grandmother too, like yours. We had that common bond. Not sure because it was so many years ago what form of dementia, but she was the co-owner of a department store.
Wow.
She and my grandfather ran it together. In the 1940s. I mean, she was a trailblazer, and to watch the diminishing, and so I wonder, like, I also think, and she also lived in a small community, and my mom and her 2 sisters were able to surround her and to care for her, but she loved people, and I wonder if something like an Insight Memory Care would have given her that ability, and also given, my mom and sisters that ability to have support that Insight Memory Care offers. And so let's listen to someone who has been at Insight Memory Care, Mary Jo, and we just really appreciate Mary Jo sharing her story, and let's listen to her story and how it starts with how they found Insight Memory Care.
So great.
Well, Steve was recently diagnosed. He was diagnosed a year ago this week, I think. But we had known for some time that there were changes happening. And it was a whirlwind between May and December. It seemed like as soon as we had the diagnosis, the floodgates opened, like everything changed very quickly. Um, And just sort of as a side note, when I talk to people and they say, "My spouse has dementia," and I say, "What kind?" I didn't realize there were 170 or whatever the number is. They say, "Well, it doesn't really matter, does it?" And it mattered to us, because we wanted to, uh tailor what we did for Steve based on his particular diagnosis. And the one he has is a little gnarly. It's not Alzheimer's, it's called Lewy body dementia. And it manifests in very different ways, and there are some very particular do's and don'ts with this diagnosis in terms of how you medicate them and how you care for them and what you can expect in terms of their behaviors. So we got the diagnosis. I was grateful to have it. He was grateful to have it because we have a name for it. Steve calls it Louie. He goes, "Oh, there's Louie again." So it's great in that way. We can laugh at it. We can curse at it. Um, but it became clear in the last half of last year that I needed help. I didn't feel safe leaving him alone. Uh, Shoot, he was in the house with me, falling down when I was a floor below him. And his neurologist had given me a list of resources, and tucked in somewhere was Insight. And I said, when I was sort of at my wit's end, not knowing what to do, I looked into it and I said, "This seems like a perfect solution. Can it be that perfect?" Um, and just the idea of giving him something to do, people to socialize with, music programs. The people who do their activities are, I don't know where they get the energy from. They're like Energizer bunnies. It's incredible. They go all day long with a high energy level for this population. And they were just always so warm and welcoming. It was a transition. It was to get him to want to get out the door and get in the car, but it was worth it. But we would be driving home, and he would say to me, "Everybody there is so gracious," and I was like, um, he said they're kind, and you know, he got, if he wanted them, there were 2 meals and snacks available every day, and chance to sit around and talk to the people, but the caregivers were just so kind.
We so appreciate Mary Jo sharing all of this with us, and it is that kindness and the humor that they are finding at a place like Insight Memory Care and other community resources that are out there. Also, what she talked about diagnosis, so important, and we're going to be talking with a geriatrician in the area in our next episode, Dr. Christina Prather.
It was wonderful.
She's wonderful, and she talks about the importance of diagnosis, sitting down together, figuring out your plan, and also to embrace some of what Mary Jo was talking about the humor and the kindness that surrounds people at a tough time like that.
And the dignity.
Right.
Right, treating them, treating people that go to the center with dignity, remembering who they are, and not were, just who they are as people, and all that respect. I think that was so important. It was sad to see my grandmother. We went to go visit her one day, and they had her in pigtails, braids and pigtails. I was like, "What is happening?" And so again, this idea that a place that treats you with respect and dignity. And, we heard also from Mary Jo about something special that they did for Steve. It just means so much.
So let's listen into Mary Jo as she explains some of that.
Steve is a retired lieutenant colonel in the Army, a decorated Vietnam combat veteran. Um, that was his first career. And then he had a second career in consulting, which is where we met. And then he had a third career in retirement, which he excels at. And at one point, one of the staff noticed that he was, um, chatting with some of the other participants in the program. And they said, we're going to make him a patient ambassador. They gave him a name tag that said Steve Ammon, patient ambassador. And, you know, he felt pretty good about that. He's been retired. Now he has a job. And one of the other participants said, you're a patient ambassador. What is that? He goes, I'm not sure, but it's great. He has a title.
I love it.
They have a veterans wall where anybody who served in any of the armed services can put their picture up on the wall and be honored in that way. You see it as soon as you walk in. They're treated with dignity. They're not talked down to ever. They're helped if they need help. They're checked in on if they just need checked in on.
Right.
He made friends with one of the guys there, and he was an admiral, and he, so they connected, even though it's Army Navy.
It's hard to say. Yeah.
Supposed to connect, but they became great friends. So they let things happen organically, and if things that they want to do, they do. If they don't want to do them, that's okay too. But it's a supervised, safe place.
Yeah.
So I could go to the grocery store, and I never worried about his safety. The nurse, I remember it was snowing one day, and the nurse came out into the parking lot to greet us. Somebody always greets you at the door. And she was so excited, she got down on the floor and was doing snow angels on the sidewalk. And they're just so full of joy. And, Steve thought that was the greatest thing. I said, don't you try that.
As you can tell, her family is just really embracing these moments and facing this head on with some humor and laughter. And I loved what Mary Jo said, that also that Insight Memory Care and this respite care that we're talking about allows the caregiver to be themselves again too.
Yeah, honestly, and that feeling, and you gotta just imagine that feeling that she's got, to have that safe place
Yeah.
to leave Steve while he's having a great time. I mean, let's all do some angels, snow angels. But then, she has that weight and she can get back to herself.
Right.
And she's got an even better description of the people who work at Insight Memory Care and how she feels about them. So let's listen into that.
As things arise in our lives, I know that I can go back to them, and they're totally my angels. They're sitting right here on my shoulder, and I know that I can tap back it because sometimes I'm thinking, am I a burden? They have 60, 40, 50, I don't know what the number is, people that they're dealing with every day. And if they have all of the alumni, because Steve isn't there anymore, he's in residential care now, but if they're all calling them, like I felt like, I didn't want to be a burden on them. And they're always so welcoming and they return calls and emails like almost immediately. Like it's just been a great resource, even as we've transitioned to a new way of being together. I want to pick up, if I can, on what you were saying about being a couple. Um, that uh, sensibility has really helped Steve to transition into this new um, life that we have. Because, it happened. Yeah, I go there every day, and I was talking to him yesterday, and he wanted me to do all the caregiving stuff. And I said, there are people here to help with that. And he said, but I want you to do it. I said, but if I'm doing it, we're not a couple then. We're a caregiver and a patient. He goes, oh, right, 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 right.
And that went back to your conversation with Insight.
Yeah, it was just such a useful construct. How do we want to be as a couple? Do you want me to be your nurse, your caregiver, your aide, or do you want me to be your wife? And he snaps back into that whenever I bring that up. So that's the gift that keeps on giving.
So this point specifically really impacted me. I mean, I never even thought about that. The idea of, what role do you want me to play?
Right.
Am I your wife or am I your caregiver? Forward, am I your daughter or am I your caregiver?
Right.
Am I your fill in the blank or am I your caregiver? That really stuck with me. And I love that it's a Insight Memory Care goes through a plan and you have these discussions about, what does this look like?
Right. It's called the SHARE program.
Ah.
And they said that they do it very early on when you come to Insight because they're really helping the whole family develop a plan. And they said, yes, it can be tough discussions, but they're important discussions. And once again, you're going to hear from Dr. Prather that these are important discussions to have early on. And it really kind of sets it up so that people start to learn their roles, like you were talking about. And it also helps families as they go along getting ready for what's ahead. And you said that you have a really special memory of being able to take your kids to see your grandmother.
Oh my gosh. So Mary Jo also shares another story about her grandchildren. And I reflected on that too, because my grandmother's decline, I've already said, was so quick and she stopped speaking. So we went to go visit her one time and I brought my children and they were little. They were like 4. And so my poor grandmother is in a wheelchair at this point, but she sees my children and they're like jumping all over her. Talk about sitting on laps. And they're so happy. And she's so happy.
Right.
She's got a big smile. And so whether she knew who I was or she knew it was happening, either way, that moment brought her joy. That moment brought me joy. Because, of course, I'm not thinking of the woman that's in the wheelchair. I'm thinking this is my abuela. And, oh, it was, I'll always have that memory. I also have the picture, by the way, so that I don't forget.
Glad you have the picture. Pictures are so important. A lot of times, if you'll take a photo album to one of your loved ones, I've done that before, and they look
Yeah.
through the photo album and things are coming back and you can share happy memories. And so actually, Mary Jo shares with us how she was doing this with her grandchildren. So let's listen.
It's great.
One of my primary objectives has been to teach them that there's no shame about this disease. Um, we don't choose it. It happens to us, and there's nothing wrong with people who have this disease. I have a book called Grandpa and Louie, um, and my girls are grandbabies are seeing them as just older people who, you know, may not talk as much or however their differences are, but they're just differences and it's okay. And there's no shame. They run into Pop-Pop's lap and they hug him and it's just beautiful. I refuse personally to hide from this disease because it is a disease, neurocognitive. Thank you. Not psychiatric. And I think that's such an important distinction. But I think it's helping my girls to see a broader world than than what they experience on a day-to-day basis.
What an inspiring message that refusing to hide from this disease, that really impacted all of us, Mary Jo, sharing that and meeting it head on and talking about it. And that's one of the reasons we decided it was so important for us to talk about this issue
Yeah.
with We're Good. And it's just a great issue in the sense that it's great to talk about it and to let people know that these resources exist.
Yeah. And you're not alone,
Right.
right? And there are places to go and to learn more. So what I'm glad to know now, Insight Memory Care has a wonderful website. They've got a book, like in its 6th edition or something like that. So
Yes.
they've got a book, they've got online trainings. So I'm not dealing with any dementia now, but I am in that sandwich. My parents are aging. And so, God forbid, but it's something that I need to know
Right.
about. I'm going to share it with my children. Again, don't know if I have a gene or something, but
Right.
so that they know that they've got resources. And, to the idea of the construct and the plan,
Yeah.
I want them to know how I want to be treated.
Right.
What's the kind of place that I want to go to?
Right.
So,
And it's also nice to have this resource to share with friends going through this, right, with their parents or with other loved ones. So it's just
and all of our listeners, like that's, again, you said it so many times earlier, but this is an awesome subject for We're Good because we need a lot of people to know that there is an Insight Memory Care out there, that the website's out there, that there are resources out there, and you are not alone.
and their website will be on our website. And so we hope that you will, of course, take a look at the resources that they have. And also, we hope that you'll join us for the next episode with Dr. Christina Prather, who's going to look at this and so much more. She's really going to talk about us actually embracing aging.
Oh, can I say it now?
Yes, go ahead.
So, Dr. Prather, and this has stuck with me since she said it, that we are biased against our future selves. Oh, man, talk about a game changer of how I need to look forward.
Yeah. And so we look forward to you hearing what Dr. Christina Prather is going to be joining us and telling us all about this coming up on the next We're Good episode. But for now, thank you to Mary Jo and to Insight Memory Care and to all the community resources out there that are really helping with Alzheimer's and dementia care. Thank you so much. As we like to say, we're good and you're good, and we can all make a difference.